All right. Hey, everyone. Are you ready for this? Let's dive into a case that's, well, it's really messed up, honestly.
Yeah, definitely chilling.
The murders of John and Lois McCullough, a couple from Essex, England. But here's the thing. Their own daughter, Virginia, is the one who did it. And we've got some amazing sources to work with here. News reports, court documents, even first-hand accounts from the journalists who covered the trial.
Yeah, we're talking like real insider access here. It's going to give us like a front row seat to this whole tragic story.
Okay, so to get started, this case, it goes way beyond just the crime itself.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes you think about some dark stuff, like how far someone will go for money.
Yeah, and how people can be so good at hiding things, even from their own family.
Exactly. Deception, like right under everyone's noses.
Yeah.
So to understand how this all happened, let's start with the McCulloughs themselves. John and Lois lived in a quiet neighborhood in Great Baddow, Essex.
Seems like a pretty normal, peaceful life.
John was a retired university lecturer, and they were both in their 70s, dealing with some health problems that come with age, you know. They had 5 daughters, and Virginia, the youngest, was still living at home, supposedly helping them out with their finances.
And that's where things start to get a little, well, complicated.
Yeah, because in September of 2023, their GP, their doctor, got worried about them and contacted the police.
Seemed like a routine welfare check at first, but,
Things escalated quickly, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
The body cam footage from when the officers arrived is, well,
It's intense.
Virginia's there, and she starts spinning this elaborate story, saying her parents are on a trip, they'll be back soon. But then she confesses.
It's like she just casually drops this bombshell.
And the details are just so disturbing.
Yeah.
They found John's body hidden in his former study, like in this makeshift tomb that she built. She used breeze blocks and covered it with blankets and pictures.
And Lois's body.
Hidden upstairs in a wardrobe.
It's just awful.
That makeshift tomb detail, it's not just about hiding the bodies. It's like...
Almost ritualistic, right?
Yeah, like she was trying to control their deaths, even in that way.
And there's another detail that adds to that. The prosecutor mentioned this. Virginia ordered building materials from like a home improvement store just 2 days after the murders. And then there's this account from a journalist at the trial. He was watching Virginia sign her confession statement. And she's just calm, like she's signing for a package delivery or something.
I read that too, and then she says to the officers, cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
That kind of detachment, the lack of remorse, it's something you see in a lot of these cases. It's hard to grasp, but often it comes from a really distorted view of reality. Like they can't connect their actions with the consequences.
Yeah, like she created this whole other world where what she did was, I don't know, justified somehow. And then there's the financial side of all this.
Oh, right. This wasn't just some random act of violence.
This was calculated. She was manipulating them. The court documents show that Virginia was deep in debt. She'd opened credit cards in her parents' names, gambled their money away, tens of thousands of pounds just gone.
And it goes deeper than just credit cards. She stole almost 150,000 pounds from them, their pensions, their winter fuel payments. She even pretended to be her father to get access to his pension funds.
It's insane how far she went to keep up this facade. Remember, she told everyone she was studying to be an artist.
Oh, yeah, like she was going to have this big, successful career.
Making it seem like it would benefit them all.
It was all a lie.
All to cover her tracks.
That's such a common tactic for financial abusers, you know. Create this believable story, paint a picture of a hopeful future. It throws people off the scent and makes it easier to take advantage of those who trust you.
And in this case, the deception went on for, well...
a long time.
Years. 4 years, she managed to convince everyone that John and Lois were alive and well. She made up stories about them traveling, being sick, even moving away. She fooled everyone, her family, friends, doctors.
And the timing of it all, it's almost like, well...
like they helped her.
Right. The COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdowns, you know, people weren't interacting as much. There was so much uncertainty. It created the perfect cover for her to avoid suspicion.
The prosecutor even called the pandemic a stroke of luck for Virginia. It's a reminder that even global events, they can be exploited, especially by someone as manipulative as her. But the big question is, what made her do this? How could we even begin to understand someone who could kill their own parents and then so carefully cover it up for years?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. During the trial, there were some discussions about Virginia's mental state, potential diagnoses like paranoia and autism, and how those might have influenced her actions and, well, her apparent lack of emotion. We'll get into all that after a quick break. Okay, so before we go any further, we need to be clear about those diagnoses. They don't excuse what Virginia did, not at all.
Right. We're not saying those conditions made her kill her parents.
Exactly. It's
Right.
much more complicated than that. But understanding those conditions can help us see maybe how she saw the world, how she made decisions.
Yeah, like how her mind worked, but not like it forced her to do anything.
Right, mental health can affect our choices, our actions, but it doesn't determine our entire lives.
That makes sense. So we can't oversimplify things, can we? This case is a web of, well, everything. And it makes you think about the bigger picture, too. Like, John and Lois, they relied so much on Virginia, not just for money, but for, like, daily help.
That's a huge part of this, isn't it? The relationship between aging parents and their adult children, it can get really complicated.
Was there too much pressure on her? Were there signs that something was wrong, but no one noticed?
These questions, they matter even outside this case.
It's like a wake-up call about elder care, isn't it? And how easily financial abuse can happen.
Oh yeah, we usually think of abuse as physical or neglect.
But this case, it shows how damaging financial exploitation can be.
It is, and vulnerability comes in many forms. Recognizing the signs is so important.
And as a society, I mean, we have to do better, right?
Right.
How can we prevent these tragedies?
That's the question, isn't it? Are there enough support systems for both the elderly and their caregivers?
And can we do more to spot the signs early on?
Absolutely. Intervention is key.
And speaking of the impact, I mean, her family, their statement in court was just, it was heartbreaking. They talked about their parents with so much love, John's humor, Lois's kindness.
All those memories just overshadowed by this horrific act.
And it shows how far-reaching her actions were. Virginia didn't just take their lives.
She destroyed their family, their shared history.
Her siblings lost their parents, their sense of, well, everything.
That feeling of security that family is supposed to give you.
And the betrayal goes even deeper. The family said that Virginia's claims of abuse, they were all lies.
Oh, right. She said her parents had been abusive.
They called it a disgusting misrepresentation, like she was trying to rewrite their past, even after they were gone.
That's just cruel, isn't it? Even in her confession, during the trial. She kept trying to control the story, make herself the victim.
To justify what she did.
It adds so much more pain for her family, having to defend their parents against their own sister.
It's unimaginable, the grief on top of that burden, to protect their parents' memory.
It shows the lasting trauma she inflicted, a wound that might never truly heal.
And it wasn't just emotional, was it? For 4 years, they thought their parents were alive.
All while she kept up that charade.
That deception, it adds another layer of pain. It makes you wonder how anyone can compartmentalize like that. To deceive your own family, knowing the truth behind their pain.
It's a question that psychology might help us answer. The human mind is capable of incredible things, both good and bad.
And in cases like this, understanding this psychology is so important. Not to excuse the actions, but to learn from them.
Maybe even prevent something like this from happening again.
And we can't forget the consequences for Virginia herself. The justice system did its job. She was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 36 years.
But justice doesn't erase the pain, does it? No sentence can fix what happened to her family.
The scars of this, they'll stay with her siblings forever. This case, it's taken us through so much. Deception, manipulation, unimaginable loss.
It's a reminder of how dark things can get.
But it's important to remember that this isn't just some sensationalized true crime story.
Right. It's about real people, real consequences. It's about the vulnerabilities we all have and the importance of being aware, being supportive in our families and in society as a whole.
This deep dive, it's gone way beyond the headlines. We've explored the psychology, the ethics, the ripple effects that go far beyond this one tragic event.
And as we wrap up, I think the key takeaway is this. We can't change the past, but maybe by understanding cases like this, we can learn to see the warning signs.
Be more proactive in supporting vulnerable people.
And push for better systems to protect the elderly and those who care for them.
It's about looking out for each other. That's what I find so compelling about these deep dives. They're not just about retelling the story, they're about making us think, challenging us to confront tough questions.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, remember, knowledge is power.
And these conversations, understanding human behavior,
They can help us create a safer, more informed future.
that's a powerful thought, one that I think will resonate with everyone listening. So, with that, we come to the end of our deep dive into the tragic case of Virginia McCullough. So, we've talked about the impact on her family, the psychology, but practically speaking, how can we spot financial abuse happening, especially when it comes to, someone taking advantage of an older person?
That's such an important question. There are some red flags, things to watch out for, like sudden changes in their finances,
Like what? What kind of changes?
well, unusual bank withdrawals, or maybe new accounts being opened.
Oh, that makes sense.
Unpaid bills can be another sign, especially if you know they have the money to cover them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And be wary if a caregiver is isolating them, keeping them away from family and friends.
Oh, like you're trying to control who they see.
Exactly. It could be a way to keep their actions hidden.
It's like a checklist, isn't it?
Yeah.
Things to be aware of, especially if you have older parents or relatives. We have to be willing to ask those tough questions.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to step in if something seems off.
It's about protecting those who might not be able to protect themselves.
Exactly. And it's not just about recognizing the signs. We need to create a culture where these conversations are normal.
Like talking about finances openly within families.
Right. Building trust and transparency between generations.
So it's about communication and support, being proactive, not just waiting for something bad to happen.
That's a great way to put it, building a safety net.
In this case, it's a harsh reminder, isn't it?
Yeah, financial exploitation can happen anywhere.
Even in families that seem loving, stable.
It's easy to think it won't happen to us, to our loved ones.
You hear about it in the news, but it feels distant.
This deep dive, it's brought it closer to home.
Made it real personal.
That's the power of these stories.
They make us confront these issues, realize they're not so abstract. They could happen to anyone.
And that's why it's so important to share them, to learn.
To empower ourselves to do something.
Even small actions can make a difference.
Like checking in on an elderly neighbor, being aware of family finances.
Advocating for better support systems.
Every bit counts.
It does. It contributes to a safer, more compassionate society.
Well said. I think that's a great place to wrap things up. This deep dive, it's been a tough journey, but it's also a call to action, a reminder to be vigilant.
To learn from Virginia McCullough's case.
And work to prevent future tragedies.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope this has sparked some important conversations and encouraged you to think about your role in protecting the vulnerable.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.
And stay engaged.